Hi, my name is Ayomide. Welcome to the World Without People podcast, where we journey into some pretty amazing stories of everyday people. I believe strongly in the interconnectedness of our human experience, that we can color and enrich our lives by sharing and learning from our lived experiences. In this concise podcast, I bring to you engaging conversations like a chapter in a vibrant book, designed to motivate and encourage and challenge and, of course, brighten your day. My guests also get to ask me one question, and there's no telling what they might come up with. So thank you for tuning in. Grab your coffee or tea, or listen on the go to some amazing stories of real people. After all, what is a world without people? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The World Without People. My name is Ayomide, and I am so excited for this particular episode because, as you know, I try to change it up often. And so today, I'm the guest. Drum roll, please. No drum roll. Okay, all right. So I'm the guest. And I have my friend Fuad Atobajam. I have to still give the full thing, who is kind enough to be my host today. Yes, my host today. And I will say, shout out to Arsenal for winning the game, because if Arsenal did not win this game, it is very likely that he would have taken his acceptance away. So shout out to Arsenal for doing the right thing, best club in the world. Thank you, Fuad. I really appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Okay, so today what we're doing is I reached out to a bunch of people, just some close, some just people who maybe not in my everyday life kind of thing, and told them to send me questions, and I will do my best to be open, honest, transparent, vulnerable, all of that good stuff. And Fuad kindly accepted the invitation to ask me those questions. So I've tried not to prepare since people sent it to me. I try not to think too much about it. Thankfully, I was way too busy to do that. And so over to you, Fuad. What's the first question?
We'll start with the simplest ones first. So, which of your name is your favorite if you have one?
I don't know. It's so funny that people are so very curious about my names. Like, don't other people use all their names? But I don't think I have a favorite. I do think I have a season for the names. And right now, I think that Ayomide is the season that I'm at. I used Ayomide, like I've told the story a million times while I was in Ibadan. But right now, I think that I'm feeling like this is a season of joy, and I need to hold on to joy in chaos, because there's so much chaos. So Ayomide it is for right now. But I do love my names. I think I've said this over and over again. They're just a blessing, I think, to me. So yeah, that was easy.
We'll keep the same energy. How do you keep your positive attitude all the time?
I think I probably give a better false impression about that than people actually realize, because I had a few people kind of ask a similar question. I'm positive all the time. I retreat a lot when I'm not positive. So then maybe that's what helps. But here's the thing. I do think that I have a responsibility, especially to certain people in my life, to be positive all the time. So, for example, one of the people that asked me this question is someone I've watched grow from a teenager to now an adult. While I was working with him, it was important that I was positive all the time. I was not going to be negative in any way, shape, or form. And so I think that's very important to me, that there are certain people in my life that can look at me and be like, okay, you know what? Even if things are shitty and maybe they don't even know, but then they hear about it later, feel like, okay, she kept her positive attitude. And I think it's quite important that we realize the responsibility that we have to certain individuals in our lives. With that said, no, I don't think I'm positive all the time. I think Fuad can probably attest, and a lot of my closer friends can probably attest to the fact that, sometimes I break down like everybody else. But the main thing is the main thing, which is God. Like, otherwise, I probably would have been crazy. But, God has also he's been there. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. What would you describe as the most defining moment of your life?
This one I thought about, I'm going to be honest, because when I saw it, I was like, have I had a defining moment? I honestly, and this is going to sound bad, I thought about it a bit, and I think it's when I was having a fight with my two sisters, and one of them, or maybe both of them, kind of said something towards the fact of, well, you don't have to take on all the responsibility. And I'm like, damn, okay. Like, you're over here, like, and I used to be the kind of person, like, my phone will never be off because what if my sisters need me? What if my siblings need me? What if my dad needs something? My mom needs something? What if my friends need something? I was always like, I had to be accessible all the time and all of that. And even with work, like I really wouldn't take vacation time because back then I was working with the church. It's like, oh, you're doing this and you're doing that. And once my sister said that, honestly, I think it changed things for me 120. I started going on vacations. I started having my phone be off, and then even deliberately like being off. Like usually, even when I would go off, I would like announce it like, oh, I'm going to be off for a couple of days. I need to like, charge or something. And this time I was like, nope, I can do this and everybody will be okay. And like, there's nothing that I need to do. And, God is there if they if they really need something. I will say that's been one of the most defining moments of my life.
Interesting. Going off of that, what three words do you think your friends and loved ones would use to associate with you the most?
Loyal for sure. That one I don't think is like a thing. Like I think that's the first thing that they will say is loyal. I think the second thing will probably be intense. And I kind of feel like it just kind of feeds into each other in that I am intensely loyal. Yes. Yeah, but I will only do it for people that I'm loyal to, maybe, or at least for the most part. I think that might be 2. 3 is hard. Oh, one thing I know my friend accused me of is always trying to solve problems. So problem solve. I feel like it's all related. Like, so a problem solver, like, my one friend said, don't tell her anything because the next thing is, what is the solution? So, and I've heard that quite a bit. So I think that might be the other thing. It'll be it. If I was going to say anything else, maybe giving, like maybe that I give a lot or that I'm hard on myself. Yeah. I feel like they all kind of connect though.
I mean, they do. They all intertwine. What keeps you going?
Ooh. Yeah, I think, you're right. I think it's kind of connected. I mean, Jesus, obviously, I think my friends and family, honestly, in that with friends and family, I think they often can see me for who I am. So no matter what, they can always kind of push me to where I need to be. And that's always been kind of very, very helpful for me, especially those who kind of know me. Travel makes me happy. So like it's like it keeps me going in that I'm anticipating the next travel. Like I feel like I spend a lot of time on my Delta app. But I will say that the hope of the future also, like no matter what, there's so many things that, you've not gotten there, you've not seen, you wish, could have been or will be. And I just have to believe, no matter how tiny that belief is, because I feel like sometimes it's quite tiny, that there's a hope, there's a future, I'm going to get there. And I think, that's helpful.
Good. So, in a nutshell, we should say family and hope is the driving force.
I gotta go back. Jesus, family, and hope. Let's put it.
Absolutely, Jesus, family, and hope.
Let's
Let's
put it in order.
prioritize that.
Exactly. But yeah, that's what I will say.
Going off of your Delta and your travels, right? Your love for travel is well documented. Everybody knows that, including myself. At what point in your life did you identify this as a love?
Honestly, funny enough, I kind of even give you some credit for that because I remember when you used to work with the hotels and stuff and you were always traveling. Yeah, like it was like I was always so envious. Like, when would that be? And I think I just kept some of those things in my head. Like, at some point, I'm going to do this, right? Like,
Okay.
and then my other friend, Doshima, who I had on the podcast, I can't remember what episode. I think she also, like, again, when she would talk about some of these things, it was like, okay, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. But I think I mentioned it already. Like, I think at some point, I remember my brother was giving a speech at Harvard, and I didn't go. I prioritized something else that I wanted to do, that I felt like I had to do, that was more like work related. And then there was another time too, it was my cousin who's late now, who also he graduated. And again, it felt like I prioritized something else, like it was more work. I
Okay.
think those two things have made me, when I looked back, it was like, okay, no more, right? Like, prioritize traveling, not because I'm just traveling into random places. I go to the same 5 places. I think I mentioned this. Nigeria, the UK, Canada. I think that's even it. US, obviously everywhere within the US kind of thing. And I go to the same places to see the same people usually because those are my people. And then maybe as I've, met more people in that city or something like that, then I would say, oh, I'm going to be there. So I'm going to see you. But it's like, those are my standard places normally, right? Because I've only been to some other places like one time. Like I've been to Dubai once. I've been to, where's the space I went to the other day? Some island, Cayman Islands once. Mexico now once. So like those have just been like one time. But like I go to Houston every year. I go to I go to Canada almost every year. I go to Nigeria multiple times a year. And then I go to the UK too lately, especially more once a year. So I feel like it was more like prioritizing also my family and friends that were there and that, they've always been there for me. They've always stayed true to me. So I think for me, that was what it was. That's what I've started to prioritize more my family. Where's my family at? Where my friends at? And I'm going to go meet them where they're at. I think that's what did it for me.
So staying on the same topic, actually, if money wasn't a factor, where, like continent, city, location, would you consider a perfect place to live?
I feel like I've answered this before. I will always still say Nigeria, right?
Really?
Because, yeah, I
Really?
know. Yes. There's this Humans of New York episode thing that he just did. It was 54 posts, 54 stories that he did about this guy who talks about his love of his country, Iran. I'm not even as close to how passionate he sounded about Iran or Iran, how do you pronounce it? But I feel the same about Nigeria. I feel a connection to Nigeria that makes absolutely no sense. If there's one thing that I kind of quote unquote, I'm still sad about, or not sad, but just like, God, what is this about? It's like, why have I not been back to Nigeria? I mean, permanently. I know it sounds crazy, but with that said, and I think I answered this like 2 episodes ago. The other thing will be anywhere that there's water. Bali still comes to mind. I hear it's really, really cheap to live there. Seashells. We've been talking about this seashell strip
Yeah,
that
I've been
we
talking
still
about.
have not done. Oh my gosh, Fuad, when are we doing our seashell strip?
Don't worry.
Fuad went to have a baby. That's what happens to seashells. I'm just saying, like, got married, had a baby, and that's how we've not gone to seashells. That's okay. But yeah, seashells comes to mind. I love the water, so anywhere by the water.
So, helping other people, what tips would you have for people traveling solo, especially women?
And I know I kind of asked Shima the same thing as well, but I would say pack your essentials in your handbag, right? So whether
Okay.
it's in your like a handbag that you can just walk with, or the actual, what they call them,
You know, again?
carry on, the carry
Yeah.
on hand luggage, whatever. Have underwear, have a shirt, have a pair of jeans, have slippers that like have one of the most important things, obviously all your documents, your medicals and everything, because just in case, right? Just in case, hopefully you can have that, right? Because like she said, there are many times when your luggage doesn't come on time, all of that good stuff. You have all of that stuff. The other thing is have a credit card. I mean, it seems, people obviously, oh, don't have a credit card. But even if it's just an emergency one, right? Like you only use it for travel, just have that, because even in countries where things may be hard, you can still use, especially some of these bigger ones like a Visa, Amex, those kind of things. I think it was Mexico, for example, they didn't take MasterCard. So definitely have, yeah. I was trying to use my sister's card because my mom had my sister's card and I was trying to use it so like I could save money, and then they didn't take MasterCard. Or was it Discover? One of them, Discover or MasterCard, they didn't take, right? So, try and have a Visa, or at the very least, Mex. I think, it's funny because everything else as far as protection, it's just the truth of the matter. You really cannot do much. I'm not going to say carry a gun with you. I'm not going to say carry a taser. And I used to think like the very first time I started to do all of this, and I should go back a little bit, that prior to even doing some of these bigger like flight travels, I started to do local travels, right? So,
Okay.
in the US, and I started to do it with, for my birthday. So every month I would go to a place. And I think, again, that's where I credit you, because like you'll be able to help with hotels. I had like my friend Yummy would, always help with the hotel. At the very least, we used to use, there was this, I forget their names, but they're like I think now Marriott owns a lot of them, but like it's like Fairfield and all of these other ones that kind of like you could always, they were a
Like
little
they all go
cheaper.
together. Right.
Yeah, and then they were a little cheaper, and then you would, get points and stuff. I remember back then, like, it got so bad that when people would want to travel, they would just be like, oh, Nife, or whatever name they called me, like, oh, can you help me get that hotel? Can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? Because I started to do a lot of that locally. And I think because I could start to afford it too, it was like, okay, you could just go down the street. And I like to drive anyways, like, so 4 hours, 8 hours, all of that. It was, not too bad. And I think maybe part of that was after I moved, like, from Michigan to Jersey, I drove 12 hours, right? Then I did Tennessee to go pick up my sister. It was 16 hours. By the time I did that a little bit, I was like, okay, you're good. You're good. You got this. And those were the times I was a little bit more scared about, like, oh, in case you have to stop at night and stuff like that. But honestly, one of the good things about doing this in, like, a country like,
In
the
your
US is that, yeah,
safety.
for the most part, it's safe. But don't be going to some areas. And then, okay, let me tell you something. If you're going to travel by car, gas up. Don't wait. Don't wait until the last minute. Let me tell you. I have to tell you guys a story. I was going to Montreal to go see my then boyfriend. Just don't ask me why. I was driving to Montreal. Like, I could have made him
Don't
pay
worry,
for my ticket.
we'll revisit that. Don't worry.
I could have made him pay for my ticket, but I used to do this whole thing of like, no, nobody should fly me out. Oh God, nobody has flown me out. Anyways, so I'm driving to Montreal and I was gonna stop. There was like a stop, and I was just like, no, you can make it. Like, just just the next one. Because in my mind, I wanted to kind of get there at a certain time. And this was at night. And I'm going and I can't find gas station. And I can't find the gas station. And now I'm freaking out. I think I called him. I'm freaking out. Called my best friend. I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then I had to get off of the highway to go into the literal boondocks of, I don't even know where this is. I know I hadn't gotten to Canada, but wherever this is from New Jersey to Canada. So I don't know, somewhere in New York, maybe. Oh my gosh, I thought someone was going to kill me. Like, and then there's like all these back roads, and then there's very minimal houses, and you finally find a gas station and it's completely white people. Shout out to my white people, but again, I'm a black girl. I was so deathly afraid and just calling on the name of Jesus, like, God, please help me, help me, help me, help me. I say all of that to say, like, stop it. Like, I don't understand how people have gotten to the point where they don't have gas in their car and somebody has to, like, bring gas to them. Don't do it, especially when you're traveling solo. Don't do it. But, all the other protection wise, honestly, it's just the grace of God. I don't think there's anything that can potentially protect you from any harm that people want to do because people are evil, except by the grace of God. There's nothing that is going to separate you from that. So I think just make sure you have all the essentials. If you're driving by road, obviously have a blanket, in the car. You never know. Have all those, emergency things that they say, extra bottle of water, all those kind of things. Make sure you know the number to your, what's that thing called? Roadside service, right? Don't now be scrambling for roadside service. If there's a need, make sure you have an extra tire, even if you can't do it by yourself, because God knows I can't. But at least have it accessible. Don't not have it for someone to be able to use, because at least that has happened to me once, and somebody just helped me on the road to do that. So long story, but yes, those are some
No,
of the
I mean,
things I would say.
I think I have a couple of follow-up questions, especially like, the whole going to see a boyfriend, but we'll come back to that later on. Yeah.
Okay.
What is a time that you failed and what did you learn from it?
Honestly, academically, I have been very fortunate to not have failed.
Okay.
However, I do feel like the fact that I did not finish my PhD on time, it certainly feels like a failure to me. Like, I had a plan. I was going to, I took my exams in like 2014, and then really I had 1 year, maybe two at the most, to have finished my PhD. And yeah, and that then ended up being another 6 years. So I think that feels like in many ways still a failure to me, because it feels like I just did not like, looking back, I feel like I didn't strategize properly, right? Like, I didn't figure out, how do international students get around this? How do they still find a job and maybe not get out of status? How do they, get a professor that would be your sponsor, that would help you get that, right? Like, why didn't I pivot quickly? I think
Okay.
that's the question that I think about a lot, that I could have pivoted a lot quicker. and gotten back the years, for lack of a better term. So then the lesson is, and it's one of the reasons why I'm particular about people in school now, right? Pivot quickly. Not to say that things don't happen, but pivot quickly. Like now, I feel like I've had many different lives. I've had many different kinds of jobs, different industries. I've gone very creative. This is still yet another creative endeavor, for example. And then, done so many things within the field, but I could have pivoted quickly, even within the field of public health or, just a lot of my more career kind of things. I could have figured out, okay, public health is not working from a place of you're not really getting the support, or as an international student, things are not working because not a lot of schools are giving, scholarships or, whatever, what they call it. Yeah, scholarships, I guess. That would have helped you to graduate easier. What else are you good at? What can you combine all those years of, you've already taken your exam. All you need to do is now convert it to another school. What could, where can you go? What could you have done? I didn't do that until I was almost forced to, but thankfully everything worked out. So I think that my biggest, even though I don't feel like I've had failures like that, I would say pivot. And I think that maybe the second one will be also in the place of relationship, right? Like, again, not from a place of failure. It's just that, if I look at my track record, I haven't had a lot of relationships. I haven't dated a lot. And I will, I tell, a lot of the younger people now, like, date, like, take the time to get to know yourself in that place, in that way. And, the only way you can really do that is the more you can date without obviously doing, some of the more stupid things or whatever. But like, I think that that's an area where I feel like I could have done better in figuring out who I was, what I liked, and things like that sooner rather than later. So you're not, 37 and you're like, okay, what do you actually want? What do you like? Those kind of things. So I think the lesson here is just do the hard things early.
I like that. All right. Talk about adapting to the US, moving at a young age. Like you talked about, like, international students. Like, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them? Wow. Hmm.
Well, I came here 19 years. It's going to be 19 years in November. 19 years
Oh.
ago, there was no FaceTime. I just want you all to know that it's so mind blowing to me now that I think about it. My 17-year-old sister just got in a couple weeks ago. I don't even think it's been a month.
Hmm.
And like, she can talk to her dad every time, or our dad every time. She can talk to her mom every time. And I'm just like, I had to like figure out how to figure out Skype to call my mom. I didn't see my mom for the first 4
Wow. How
years.
was a thing then?
Skype was a thing then. I just want y'all to know. Like, I used to have to buy calling cards to call my mom, and it was freaking expensive. And then my dad would be like, cut it, don't worry, I'll call you back. Oh my gosh, I remember my Purple Motorola phone.
Motorola's. They were
Oh my gosh, they
no
were the
iPhone
thing,
then.
right?
It was
No
Motorola,
iPhones.
Samsung, Nokia.
It was a different time. It was a very, very different time. And I think it helped that I'm the first child of 7. Oh, we're 7 in total. So yeah, I needed to figure out stuff early. Now, I was fortunate, I would say. I came and I stayed at my uncle's for like a little bit, but my uncle has his own life. He was working, he had his own kid. He wasn't over there trying to tell me how to do it, what to do, blah, blah, blah. I had to figure it out, right? There were people that I met, in school that maybe they were already here or we were figuring out together. So it was very, very helpful. But I will say that obviously it was a lot of adjustments. I think even if you came in, like as a citizen, it's still a lot of adjustment, right? Back then, people still used to ask me if I lived in a hut and if snakes and lions were my friends. And I'm pretty sure that there's still some people that still think that nonsense now. But, it was like you're coming from a place where you don't even understand what racism looks like. Nowadays, they will say that's not even like blatant racism. Maybe that's what they call it. There's something else that they call it
Subtle, the
nowadays.
subtle.
Yeah, like the subtle ones, but they call it something else. Anyways, I can't remember right now. And it's like, you just Like, you were just surprised. Like, what the hell? Like, do you not read? Like, what is going on? But I wouldn't take offense, right? That wouldn't have like made me sad, or like, in public health, we talk about how some of this racism gives us stress and hypertension and things like that. Those were the things that affected us. There was also the food. We need to talk about that. Gosh, just thinking about the fact that you cannot eat your food. Like now, 19 years later, I don't know the last time I've had swallow. Like if I don't go to Nigeria once in a while, it's like, I don't really care. But back then, oh my gosh, it was like somebody was ripping my heart out. It's not like I used to eat the swallow like that. But somehow, the fact that I
Just
didn't have access
missing
to
it.
it, the fact that I didn't have access to it, you went to the grocery store, it was so freaking expensive. Obviously, but when I was coming, I didn't bring a lot of Nigerian food. Now I can be going up and down with my Nigerian food. And they even know what the Nigerian food is,
Exactly. They
right?
will
Like
stop you at the
now,
airport and ask.
and they will ask you, like, do you have food? But, like back then, it was like a whole thing, like, having to figure out how you were going to bring food back and stuff like that. So it was definitely different. What I will say is find a tribe, right? One thing that helped me. Now, interestingly enough, when I was in Michigan, I did not like the Nigerian church that I went to. It seemed very old school, and I had come from a church that was a lot more progressive at the time. So I didn't like the Nigerian church. But I found Nigerian friends within my school, right? And maybe, obviously, don't keep it to just Nigerians. I think those are some of the things I would have done better. Keep it, Africans. We have the same culture. We have the same things. We're kind of alike. So, do that. Get in immediately. There are many schools that have like African student associations and things like that. I wish I'd known that a lot better then than even now. Right. I have my sister-in-law, her school in Oklahoma. Like, I guess apparently maybe there was one professor plus their African student thing. Like, all of them are so tight. Like, we went to my sister-in-law's sister, so she's still my sister-in-law, whatever, her wedding the other day, and they came in deep, like 20, 30 people. I don't know, 20, 30 people from any school that I went to in freaking America, and I've been to like 10 schools. So, like, okay, I exaggerate, like 5. But anyways, going back. So find a community, whether it's church, whether it's mosque, whether it's your African Student Association in school, find a community really, really quickly. That, I think, nothing else helps more than that. The other thing I will say is that if you're coming in, especially as a student and not just, an adult, is don't let what you've heard about people keep you away from the non-African community, because they know the way to get you where you need to get to. Nigerians
100%.
still hoard shit. I don't understand why, but they still do, right? Not everybody is going to be like me, who's just running her mouth talking. Not everybody is going to be like everybody else who does that, right? People still hoard shit. So you need to, find a professor. Some people, are willing to help. You just have to be bold enough to have those conversations, and they will help you. Again, I think it's related to everything I've said earlier, which is that's one of my regrets. I wish I did that a lot more. I wanted to feel safe. I won't lie to you. Like, I'm a big thing on safety. I don't like stress. So like, it was just easier to deal with my Nigerians. And then if my Nigerians are messing up, and I'm just like, okay, bye, screw you. But that's not hard. See, I don't like stress. I don't like stress, but it's not the way to go, right? So speak up soon enough, ask questions, go out, like, really endeavor to learn from other people and learn from other cultures. I don't think there's any other way, honestly. I mean, can you think of one or two things anybody else should do?
I agree with you. I think you have to speak up. Like, um, we don't all know like the solutions to everything, especially if you're coming from a country that you go into a country that you're not familiar with the culture, the environment, the surroundings, the norms of the country. So you have to like ask those that have been here. And on occasion, like Nigerians are not the best knowledgeable people to ask for certain information from. Not to say they don't know it, but they might be reluctant to share it. Whereas come to like, I remember when I was in school, like I have a lot of Indian friends, and they're very willing to share like, all those easy ways to get around like different topics and subjects and getting your papers done. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Nigerians are not. It's just that like they feel like, oh, if I tell you, you tell anyone, then we get in trouble. And it's like, but it's just easier for you to kind of ask different people. But yes, I agree. I agree. All right, staying on topic of school and all your degrees, if you had just 1 minute to prepare, what's one subject you can comfortably talk about to a crowd of 100 people for an hour?
Actually, it won't be anything on school. It will be on the importance of relationships, focusing obviously on mentoring. Yeah. Again, I think it's related to what all the things I've been saying. It was not something I understood. I mean, it's funny because I've always been about my friends, about my family, but I did not understand it from the point of benefiting other areas other than the emotional. For me, it was
Okay.
mostly just the emotional or maybe the spiritual. That's why I needed people. That's why I wanted people. That's why, as reclusive as I am, as most people will say, my deep friends, my close friends, all those kind of things. It was more just about making sure we were mentally okay, emotionally okay. Like I'm big on emotional connections. I'm big on mental connections, and then the spiritual because again, people just to remind you that it as well as people will say that's my favorite thing to say. But I did not do that when it came to school, like I mentioned, career, business, all the other developmental parts, financial. Oh my gosh, financial, God. If I think about where I am financially and where I could have been, my God, I just want y'all to know that your girl has places to go. Places to go. But God is in control. God is in control. I mean, I don't have any major debts or anything. So that was one thing that, again, when I'm paying international student fees, somebody tells you real quick, don't have debts. So that was very, very helpful. Like I'll be honest, like even when I mentioned credit card, like I said credit card is for emergency purposes only. Please do not use credit cards. Oh, and by the way, I should have said with the whole travel thing, follow Doshima. Again, she was on my podcast. So just go a couple, posts back and you would see, I don't remember the episode. I want to say episode 9, but Doshima, where we talk about travel, she often puts up information around travel tips as well. But yeah, financial tips. Again, if you reach out to me, I can probably, connect you to 1 or 2 people if there are any. But I got health from doing public health. So that one was easy. Like I knew not to smoke. I knew not to drink, like, or at least not drink too much. Like that was easy. But like financial and personal development and career development, those 3 areas in particular, honestly, again, I would say that as we were talking about failure, like those and relationships, right? So those 4 areas, I would say that I quote unquote failed at because I did not ask the right questions. I didn't talk about it. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't pursue it, all of that stuff. So I would say that if I was to have a conversation about anything, I would literally stand in front of a pulpit and talk for 1 hour about how you should connect to people, why mentoring is important, especially around those 4 areas.
Okay. So, speaking of relationship, right? It could be, intimate or just friendship. A quality people admire about you is your continuous ability to show love, right? And in that capacity, with someone with a large heart, um, how do you know you've gotten to a point that you need a break?
Honestly, I think I've mentioned this before too, somewhere. Respect. If in a relationship there's no longer respect, for me, there's nothing that is the basis of that relationship anymore. And respect is very simple. Respect is returning a call. Respect is doing what you said you do, following up the way you said you follow up, checking in. It's very silly. But even with you as a friend, tell me when you get home. Like every so often, mostly when we travel or whatever, like I've traveled to Houston, I've seen you. Where was the last time we saw Nigeria? It's like, okay, let me know when you get home. Like you're respectful enough to do that. For me, when the respect is starting to wane, I'm starting to get drained. And then at that point, I know that. And again, like I said, and I think I like the way you phrased it. It's any kind of relationship, even with work. Like if I'm getting to that point where at work, like, yeah, I'm like, this is not working. I'm not respecting my time. People are not respecting my time. They're not respecting my efforts. Then it's about time for me to go. And my body starts feeling it, like literally, like I just literally start feeling it, and I'm like, I'm out. Yeah. So
So in that scenario, how do you address it? Like if you feel like the respect is dropping, like how do you address it? Do you bring it up? Do you casually just throw it in the mix? Do you have like a sit down or one-on-one? What's your next step?
that's a very good question because I think I have an avoidant personality because said I know. Oh my gosh. Because I don't like conflict for shit. I don't like drama. Oh my gosh. I wish people understood how much I don't like drama. I don't like stress. Like, it's so funny that, we say this all the time, but some people, I feel like some people like drama. Like people say it, but they actually like it. I don't like drama. So again, it is not an area that I've often done well in. And I say it, that one I'm very vulnerable about. Like, I don't think that prior to 2020, I would have ever addressed any drama situation. Even now, honestly, with certain relationships, I just kind of let it go because I'm just like, you know what, our relationship has gone past that, right? It's like our relationship has gone past where I'm fighting with you on that particular topic or in that way that you may have shown disrespect, that because I know you well enough, I know it may not have been intentional, but still it happened, right? But so I can let that go. So now I have been fortunate to not have in the past 3 years dealt with it as much. Oh, I will. Okay, no, I do have one story. It was a coworker. Actually, I was his boss, and honestly, he just started being disrespectful. And like I said, I don't do disrespect. So I called him, talked to him. He wasn't listening. I think for me, it was like, now you're even disrespecting in front of the rest of the team. So brought it up the chain, right? Had one conversation up the chain, had a second conversation up the chain, had a third conversation up the chain. And at that point, it was like, okay, do you want to fire him or not? And I was still trying to be nice. Honestly, not nice, but I mean, again, just understanding that, people need their jobs and things like that. So initially, it took me a while to kind of say, I don't want this person to, go. Like, I'm hoping he can fix up, but he didn't. And it worked out in that the company was now already letting people go for many reasons. That wasn't also only personal, but some of it was personal as well, I would say, I think. So at that point, it was like, okay, you know what? Either ways, I have to cut people from my team. I only wanted the best of the best of the best. And because he had already, through his disrespect, started to mess up on the job, right? It was then a productivity issue, right? Because if you are really, as good as that, maybe I'll have just been like, okay, you know what? I still need you on my team. You're making me look good in general for the company. So like, I'll deal with the disrespect, but like, we're not going to add disrespect and there's no productivity. Like, this is all working out. So that was actually my first time. That was my first time that I had to deal with someone like that, and like actually had to deal with it. Like, there was no getting away, because usually peace out, A-Town. Like, you just notice that I'm no longer like on your beat. And I don't stress, I don't fight. Like, it's very likely that we were not the best of friends anyways, because my best of friends kind of know me and I know them, and we have that respect for each other. So again, even with intimate relationships, as we will call it, the same thing. It's like, if I'm starting to shout too much, like, I'm just going to be like, nah, it's time to go. I have sometimes waited for the person to say it. So I won't be very honest, like, but I'm
So
already out.
you don't bring it up.
In the past, yeah, I'm just like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm not talking as much and I'm not listening as much. Like, just say that's you. You've ended it, right? Like, can we move on? But sometimes too, I've just been like, oh, this is over. Like, this, it is what it is.
So going back to like the draining part, like how do you refresh? Like if you feel like you've given so much, how do you refresh yourself? Like how do you get back to your normal self?
A
Things like
good cry. A good bloody cry. I will cry and cry and cry and cry. To be fair, I mean, that's something that I don't think people talk about a lot. I cry when I'm overwhelmed. And once I'm done, I'm done. I'm good.
that.
I am ready to go. And I say it all the time. I used to say it back then, especially when I used to work at church, and like, or like, we're planning a really major events, like everything is like, as soon as that event is over, I just cry. I probably cry on my way home, and that's that. Like, I'm like, everything is out of my body. So honestly, a good cry is what does it for me. My second thing is probably just like music and or watch TV or read a book. But a good cry, honestly. I think people need to understand, like, don't let your body hold on to these things, right? From a public health perspective, I just want you to know, this is why we say stress causes cancer. Don't let your body hold on to this thing. Cry, let it go. Or exercise if that's for you. Don't drink. Don't smoke. Like, don't do the bad things. Do the good things for your body to let it go.
Actually, there's another question, but I'm thinking it's like it might be the same answer, but I'll just ask nonetheless. How do you know when it's time to move on to the next phase of life, even when it's taking you somewhere completely random?
I won't even say it's the same question. How do I know? Well, usually I know because I'm not settled. I'm not at peace. Like, everything is irritating me, everything is bothering me, the things that I would normally be able to let go. So that's when somebody says X and I'm just like, the hell you're saying, and give them YZ. Like everything just starts to like irritate me and bother me and, all of that. And I know that I'm not at peace. And I'm not like, especially in my mind, right? Like, especially in my mind, if I cannot settle the thoughts in my mind, that's usually how I know. And sometimes things are obvious because things are not working. So the job is not working as well. The relationship is not working as well. Like all of these things are not working as well. And I think the problem is that we oftentimes are not bold enough once we recognize it on time to let it go immediately. So then we let it hang on till the point when everything else is frustrating. And then it's like, okay, now it's time to let go. With that said, I think the other thing is like, don't be afraid of failure. So as you know, I am having to make a move that we will not talk about yet. After just another move. And honestly, like my life is starting to look like chaos defined. But thank you, Jesus, because that's not how God sees me. So I have to put my trust in God, right? I have to put my trust that in those random moments things are working out. And I have figured out, it's still very annoying to me. It's still very frustrating to me. But I figured out that those random things, they all add up. They all make sense eventually. It's like, but God, we could have just gone the straight way. Like, when will my life go the straight way? Like, when? Just tell me when. But it always does eventually. Almost like a jigsaw puzzle where it has a place for everything. So don't be afraid to let go, especially for the person who asked me this, because I remember who did ask me this one. Don't be afraid to let go. Do it immediately. It may seem like failure. It may seem like you're crazy. It may seem like whatever, but pray on it, obviously. Ask the Holy Spirit. Oftentimes, what I do is I ask for advice and it's too much advice and it's like you're hearing from everybody else and like then you still don't do it because it's like, oh, this person, like, be careful who you ask for advice from, but ask for advice too because you just never know, right? And then put everything in a bowl and you make that decision. The Bible says that everything works out for your good, right? So if it happens that the thing looks in the physical crazy, guess what? It's going to work out for your good. That's the only thing I have because otherwise my life is an interesting one, I will say.
Interesting. It's actually pretty good. Would you say that's the way that you handle it, like mentally and physically?
Physically, I just move, like I said. And if things are hard, I just cry. That's the physical. Nothing else more you can do about that. If you're fortunate and can afford it, see a therapist. Like I said, ask for advice, making sure you're asking the right people. Mentally, I pray. I think that's the only thing that helps. Sometimes I don't even really pray, let's be honest, because sometimes I can't put it into words. So I'm either praying in my mind or I'm just saying, help me, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Like I really don't say more than that sometimes. But one thing that really does help me, I write. I write it out. I write it. Sometimes if you see me just post stuff on WhatsApp, just know that my
Oh, you
head
have
is all over the
blog.
place.
That's your blog.
Exactly. That's another story for another. So, right.
Next question. If you could do it all over again, what's one decision you would change and one decision you would keep?
I feel like the answer to both is PhD. I will do the PhD. I will keep it. I'll just maybe have done it in a different school or at least navigated the best place to have done it that would have with the right resources, with the right people. Like I rushed because of immigration status.
Okay.
And I don't think I took the time I needed to have navigated that properly. I had an option of two schools. I got into UConn and I got into Rutgers. At the time, I'm like, where am I going to stay in UConn? We had somebody that we knew randomly that I could probably stay in. And the rest to say is history and all of the drama that came with it. Now, you can still look back and say I finished it, but like, did I need all that drama? So, I think that would be the one thing. That was simple.
Besides the PhD, what would you consider your greatest achievement and why?
Yeah, I remember seeing this question and I'm like, I don't know that I've had my greatest achievement yet.
Well, so let's go by so far.
My greatest achievement.
Besides the PhD, can you just...
No. I don't even think the PhD is my greatest achievement. It was just what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to go to.
Okay.
I mean, like, I don't know if I've told the story on my podcast. I did the PhD because I wanted to, at some point, become the Minister of Health in Nigeria. I don't know if that's still going to happen, but like, I wasn't going to get a medical degree. So I decided to get the PhD to set me on that path to becoming the Minister of Health in Nigeria. So my PhD is not the greatest achievement. Is it bad to say, or is it lazy to say that keeping my friendship for a number of years, like my best friend Debbie and I, best friends for 19 years, give or take 17, 18. Same with my best friend BJ. Even you, I've known you longer than that. And I mean, we don't call each other best friends, but we've maintained our relationship for years and years and years, and not distance, not talking every time, not you're married, nothing has, broken that up. And I have that with a number of my close friends, like my friend Yomi, you, like I mentioned, Debbie, BJ, in fact, that BJ's entire family, really. Everybody else I've mentioned is married, has kids, all of that stuff. I'm single, and, that's still not changed anything for anybody. They've not seen me any different. I think for me, that's a really big deal. I think that, that's a good achievement in my life. And obviously, I mean, people always say your siblings are like for life, but again, it's different from actually just having a relationship with them as well. So I think that's what I would say.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's can be considered an achievement. I'll give it. I'll give it. What incident have you been in or has happened to you that you wished ground swallowed you up?
Oh, it was the one with my sisters. Telling me that they didn't need me. I was just like, that thing pained me. I won't even lie. I don't think I've ever told them. It pained my heart. Oh my gosh.
So they
I
listen,
just
so they'll
wanted,
find out.
I know, right? I just wanted to die, but it was also the right thing. They needed to say it, and I'm grateful they said it. It really changed my perspective too on how to be a better sister. It's something that I really struggle with sometimes, like especially my first set. Long story. For my first set of siblings, I really struggle with, have I been a good sister to them? Did I, especially, it's easier now, but was I, especially at those times when they were growing as well and we were, dealing with everything, like, was I a good sister to them? So, it's something I kind of take really serious. But yeah, when they said that shit, oh God, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I wanted to die.
So do you feel the same way? Like you have to handle everything, or now you've learned from it?
Oh no, what? Hey, see, just this past week, I'm like, Papa, oh yeah, it's your turn. It's not me. I'm not doing it. It's not on me. Oh yeah, pick up the phone, do what you gotta do. I'm like, Talani, please just send me your credit card. Cause as you are like this, as per lawyer, girl, your sister is a public health official. You're a lawyer. Be bringing your credit card. Let's go. So I don't even like what? Like no. Everybody has responsibility now. We're all adults. Thank you, Jesus. We made it.
So you
So
waited until they
Allah.
said it, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. No. They needed when they said it, it set me loose.
It was
And then I
affirming for
still
you.
no. I think it wasn't affirming. It was this one thing that it hurt me, but it made me understand my role a little bit better. But then also I won't say that it was the boldness or the courage. It was in fact, it still took me time. What I'm saying now as like, oh, I'm doing it now. I still think it still took me time, right? Like
Okay.
it's not, but it was like, wow, like, okay. Did you understand so let me tell you, and I think part of it was psychology. My psychology degree is my first degree. It had really given me some exposure to understanding adolescent psychology, just understanding humans, understanding people. So I was also taking some of that. And then it talked a lot also too about, being the first child and some of the things that we do and stuff like that. That and, first child from, parents who are divorced. I'd already internalized all these things I needed to do, how I needed to almost like a mom, when they say, like, if they say the child is good, is the father's child, if the child is bad, is the mother's child. So for me, it was like, if the child is good, it's the firstborn's problem. I mean, if the child is good, it's the parents, I don't know, whatever. If the child is bad, it would have been part of the firstborn's problem. So I taken that really, really seriously. And it was like, okay, but no, it's not actually your problem. Like, it's not actually your responsibility. Not that it's not your responsibility, responsibility. You have a part to play. Like I said, still take it seriously, because I really do think they have a part to play. The Bible says how that there are many parts in the body and they each have their function, right? The hand cannot be the feet, right? I do think that in a family structure just as well, right? The mom cannot be the dad cannot be the mom. That's why we say that all of these things are important. Even if they're divorced, like they still have the role as the dad and they still have the role as the mom, and all of that. I also think placement of children is
Important.
is
The role.
valuable. Exactly, right? Like there's some things that my baby sister can do. Alara Oluwashio, as most may know her, like she can do even okay. So for example, right, like how I just mentioned, like, oh, my brother, maybe he's like, okay, he can solve problems. Talan is like, okay, especially the money. But like Shell is like the emotional for me. Like if I'm venting about something, even if it's something that maybe Papa Talani did, like she's the one that can be like, okay, be calming down. Especially like my mom did. Like, okay, be calming down. Like, everybody has their role, right? And so I do think that, it took me a while to see them as just not my babies.
Right.
And, as adults as well, or as growing adults. They're still my babies forever.
I do agree with that though. Like we all have our roles to play, especially in a family structure. And then having that Nigerian mentality, it's different from any other country. But I agree. All right, so let's see. What's your favorite life experience so far, and why is it your favorite?
Ooh, I think I have two. Actually, that one I also feel like I kind of like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, I have an answer. It was
Okay.
my 30th year. I don't know what God was doing, but God was showing off. I look good. I've mentioned this thing before. I look so good. I can't wait to get back there. Baba God, hear my prayer. I look good. I felt good. Nothing was stressing me, even though everything was stressing me. Like, but my mind was at peace. Spiritually too, God have mercy. Because I feel like that year too was like, I'm over there doing like 40 days fast. Nobody told me. I just did it. Like I was with God, like everything. It was good. And then to top it off, I went to Nigeria, and I don't even remember what I went to Nigeria for. And I think I stopped in London on my way. And then I went to Nigeria, and I had a really good trip in Nigeria. And then I was in my dad's office, and his friend comes over, and I'm like, oh, I'm stopping in Dubai. Like my layover was in Dubai. He's like, oh, do you want to spend a few days in Dubai? And I'm like, yeah. And my dad is going to buy the ticket. And my dad is like, sure, I'll do it. And that's how my dad added a few more days. So I was able to do a few more days and bought my ticket. And then I was upgraded on the flight to business class. All through the flight to business class. And I don't know if you tried Emirates. First of all, Baba God. That was a beautiful flight, a beautiful plane. I was just walking around. I was in the lounge area of the business class. I was just feeling like my life is like, I'm going back. Like one day soon. And this was free upgrade, by the way. Or like this was free upgrade. It wasn't
You have
like
to
my
pay
dad.
for it.
Exactly. Not like my dad did it. And then I was in Dubai for a few days, all expense paid. Like I stayed in a penthouse of like alone, all expense paid trip, did all the, quick famous things. And it was like 2-3 days, but like did all the quick famous things and everything. And it's so funny. This memory just came. Thank you, Holy Spirit. It was the last time I saw my cousin who's now dead in person, because he used to live in Dubai. And so now every time I see it, I hold on to it so much more, because it was the last time I saw him, and I got to meet his family at the time. Is that the last time I saw him? I may have seen him in New York again. I don't even remember. But at least it's just a memory, because I saw him where he was, and I saw him with his family. Yeah, so yeah, Dubai. That whole 30th year plus that was my favorite. I'm still waiting to shout upgrade.
Yeah. All right. Shifting gears a little bit. Let's see. This one is it's a tricky question, but we'll ask it anyway. Why do you sometimes let fear of rejection convince you to settle for less than you deserve?
I think it's, how I talked about the avoidant thing. I think it's connected. I think if I go back to my psychology degree, it will say because my parents were divorced. And that's the reason why the fear of rejection kind of still lingers on. God, I don't like rejection. Ooh, gosh. See, and forget
Confrontation too.
relationship. And confrontation is related. Now, as I said, that rejection, confrontation, and avoidant personality. And all of them, if if I did therapy, which is what I probably should have done, but I thought that public health was going to give me more money. And I've just become a specialized therapist of some sort. But anyways, if I go back to my psychology degree, I'll say that that's all connected. And honestly, like, I hate rejection. I can't even lie, but not even so much in relationships. It's actually more career. Like, forget relationship. This is what it is. Well, I don't even say forget. But like, I can't control somebody else. Like, career, it used to just be like, you're the one failing, especially like it's you that like, why are jobs picking you? Or, even like my last company, 54 Gene. It was not me. They were letting everybody go and it still felt like rejection. Like, it's just crazy. So why do I let it, not let me do things? I don't know. Like I said, I understand where it comes from. I think it's just, I don't want to be hurt. And I've mentioned it. Like, if they say, what's my love language? Safety, and people buying food for me, like people ordering the food for me, like it's not even in the dictionary of love languages. I'm sure if I told a therapist, they'll be able to like see how it's connected to the 5 love languages, but safety and someone ordering food for me, babe. Okay. Ordering food for, like, just order it for me. Like, don't make me have to go in there and say what it is. Like, just order it. Those are my love languages. So I don't know. I think that, that's it. And I think the other way I'll say it is I'm also such a very logical person. Like, I've seen all the X's and O's and Y's and Z's. I've seen it all. So it's like, where else is this going to plug? Like, that's exactly where it's going to plug. Like, beyond believing in the miracle of Jesus and what he can do for me, I can oftentimes see way too much the practical or the logical or what is supposed to happen. And so, it kind of forces me to make that choice. So I don't lean in too much to my faith side. I lean in much more to my human side, as they would say.
Would you now say you settling or you just accepting?
A bit of both, obviously. In some ways, it's accepting to the point. Okay, so for example, and like you said, we're probably going to talk about it, but it's like this whole issue of being almost 37 and not being married. First of all, I can't control that. The man has to come, and I don't know what else to do to get the man to come other than going online, and I'm not doing online apps. Now, if you ask some of my friends, right, is my fear of rejection that's probably not letting me go on apps and just really putting myself out there like that, right? But if I think about it honestly, I think I'm accepting the God is in control of this particular situation. This is not a thing that I can particularly control, right? For example, I travel all the freaking time. You're telling me I couldn't have met somebody on the freaking bus or train or at the rest stop area on the plane? Like, there's just way too many places to have met someone, right? I don't know that it's any different from dating apps. So I think for me, sometimes when it's like, someone will think it's a fear of rejection that's making me not go on an app. I will counter that with that particular one I cannot control. I'm accepting what God is doing in that there's a time for everything. Now, are there other things that I could do that I'm just like settling for the issue? Like, even career-wise, what do you mean?
No, I'm listening. This is a good part. Like, are there other things you could do? I'm listening to that part.
Well, I was going to say, career-wise, for example, is there ways I could probably push myself or, like really, really just network more? Because I don't like networking per se. Like I said, I will advocate for mentoring and people networking, but it's because I know that it's something I'm not really, really good at, right? As well. And I want people to get better at. Networking is something that I still really, really struggle with. Like, you can't just tell me to go to a random networking event. It's hard for me. Like, I'm also a big fan of like personal connection. Like, it's one thing if somebody introduces me, it's another thing for me to just go to a random networking event. Like, what am I supposed to be saying? Like, how do I introduce myself? I don't know how to do that, right? But I know that that's something that I could potentially have done or should be doing that could potentially push my career a lot farther than I'm probably not doing. And that is me settling. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this was not the question, but because you brought it up, now I want to ask it. How do you introduce yourself?
Ooh, okay, Mr. Podcaster. Okay. Yeah, no, I actually do not have a 2-minute spiel for how I introduce myself.
No, we'll wait. We have time. We'll wait.
No. I'm not even joking. It's really, really bad. And I really need to do that better because, the other day my boss invited me to something and they're like, introduce yourself. And I'm just like, yeah, my name is Bukola Ayomide. I have public health background and I've been doing this for like 10 years. I don't have a spiel. But, funny enough, I was thinking about it today because I'm going to have to do this introduction on Wednesday for work. I am going to take my resume, put it on ChatGPT and have ChatGPT help me write what my introduction should be. But I don't have a good introduction of myself, even personally, honestly. I'm just, hi, how are you? I can have deep conversations, but I can't do small conversations, and it starts with that. And I don't know how to do it. How would you introduce me?
No, we're not asking the questions. This is about you.
You see?
Asking you the question. So, okay, so let me see. You don't like going to network events. So say you are invited in it. Like, tell me, I need 3 statements from you that gives me an overview of who you are. Just 3 statements. Don't tell me your name. I don't want your name.
I'm a public health expert, and I've been in the industry for over 10 years, closer to 15 years, with a
Only that
diverse
one statement.
Okay. With diverse background in public health education, mental health, and epidemiology.
Your profession.
Oh, okay. You're talking about my self.
Yes.
Boy, bye. I have no clue. Public health professional or expert with 15 years of experience in epidemiology, public health education, and mental health. One. I also host a podcast called The World Without Me.
That actually,
I also host exactly.
Take that.
Exactly. I also host a podcast called The World Without People, where I speak to people about their stories and learn lessons from them. Can we leave it at 2? I can't think of a third one.
I'll give you time to think about that.
Thank you.
So the last but not the least question. Okay. I like this one. I'm looking forward to the answer to this one. And I want details. Let's just be honest. I want specifics. All right. Who is the one that got away? No name if you're feeling shy, but
Oh, yeah. There is no one that got away, and I'm saying that for the people in the back. There is no one that got away. I mentioned already that, I haven't really... Let me tell you what happened. So I dated somebody in Michigan maybe like 3 months. Dated somebody in Canada. And when I say dated, like official boyfriend, right? Dated somebody in Canada a couple months. And then I didn't date anybody again for maybe like 2-3 years, maybe even longer. Then I met this one guy and we dated for about maybe 2 years. And I did not even talk to an individual again for 10 years. And when I mean talk, I mean like anybody that came through, I didn't give them a chance to like get past, I like you like me, okay, bye. Like this is not going to happen for 10 years. And that has been my relationship experience. Okay, well, I should add the person that I dated in Nigeria, right? Like high school dating. Oh, wait. Oh my gosh, he's gonna kill me if he hears it. He's not gonna hear it. No, I did date somebody in Maryland. Oh my gosh, he's gonna kill me if he heard it. Maryland was still before. I feel like none of them count really though, because this was like while I was in college, like 2 months here, 3 months here. I used to love long distance relationships. I say used to because I feel like right now I need an in-person relationship, but who knows what God is trying to do. And then didn't date anybody again for 10 years. 10 straight years, and didn't even talk to anybody. Like if people will come, I like you, but and then I used to always get like really younger guys at the time, right? So I used to be like, oh, I shouldn't, like, yeah. So that was that. That was my major relationship until 10 years later. Started talking to a friend, and I was just like, okay, are we gonna do this or not? And then he was not serious. And then dated another person for like 2 months, and then my siblings didn't like him, so. And then dated. Well, to be fair, I'm not even sure if I'll call it a dating relationship, like, because I feel like we just started, didn't ever say boyfriend, girlfriend, but then it was almost like a year. It was, at least it felt serious. It was serious. Just never got to, I guess, defining it. And then that was that about that. So, and that was, again, between that was still like, this was like, I'm talking 2021 to like, no, what am I saying? This was before pandemic. So I'm talking 2019 to like 2021, right? Like there was always that gap of like, I'm not talking to people immediately and everything. So none of them were the getaway, because obviously I would have still been with them if they were. So I don't have any regrets for any of those. I think that for any of those, like, they weren't meant to be, probably shouldn't have started, some of them. And so if I ever would say anything about getting away, it's maybe the people in the middle of I like you like me, but for some reason, mostly I would say they were younger than me, and at the time it seemed like that was unacceptable. Or friends where, like, friends to the point where I'm just like, I don't want to ruin this by, like, my friendship was much more important. And again, I say that very loosely because, again, it's just like you never even really get there, but like, you're friends, like, you could have maybe made the effort, right? Exactly. But it's just like, no, no reason to. So yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think any has gotten away yet. And I don't, I should say this. I don't want it. I don't want that. I want the first. I'm hoping, I'm trusting God that, this next person is the last person, and is a person that, I really say that I've finally fallen in love. Because all this while, I probably said it's just
Soulmate.
The soulmate type. Because if I'm being honest, if I see divorce rates everywhere, like Hugh Jackman and his wife, 27 years, what the hell are you going to? Like, what is happening to real long? In that same week, I think it was like one of the Jonas Brothers, like, it was just like so many people, and you're just looking like, God, is this like the future? Like, and I think, to be honest, that's another reason why I haven't dated a lot. I mentioned all these people, but it's like, that it's not serious enough. Like, it wasn't ever probably going to get there, that kind of thing. Maybe one or two, like, you hope. There's one that I kind of hoped, even though I knew it would not happen. I didn't want to go to his church ever, and he would never have gone to my church. And he was a serial cheat. But at the time, I was like, we're not really doing anything, so, like, it's fine. And then another one, like, oh, you're Muslim, like, I know you're not, it's never going to go anywhere, because I'm going to need you to come to Christ, and you're not going to come to Christ. So it's like, maybe that's the definition of the one that got away that I can use. But it's like, I've not really fallen in love. And I'm like, God, please just let it be the one and the last one. I don't want to get my heart broken. I don't want to get my heart broken. Like, can we not? And then can we not be divorcing? Like, this is why I'm not dating that much, and I'm not rushing, because I'm just like, see, these divorce rates, my God, Lord Jesus, help somebody. Like, everywhere you turn is so bad. Like, it's like, I had to tell my little sister the other day, I'm like, please, I just want you to know, because she's talking about her 17-year-old friends, talking about, oh, boys will break your hearts, boys will stain your white. I'm like, I know. I'm like, first of all, stop it. That's nonsense. What are they doing, and why? When I was 17 years old, anybody that told me that I would not even already be married and loved up by now, I would have slapped them, because especially with my R&B novels that I used to read, like, I was so like, I cannot waste the perfect man. Exactly. Like, he was going to be perfect in every way, shape, or form. Mind you, I come from a home where people are divorced, but in my mind, that was not reality. That was just something that happened. My reality is going to be much, 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 much better, and that for all of my siblings, in Jesus' name. But, like, that was my thing. Like, I couldn't wait to fall in love. I still can't wait to fall in love, right? So I had to tell her, I'm like, okay, please don't listen to what people say, because if you listen to divorce rates like this, it's like, what's even the point? Like, I've actually heard people say, like, just gonna have your baby. What's the point? Like, and I'm just like, no, I refuse it. I reject it. That is the one thing I do have complete and total faith in God for. So I hope I answered that question satisfactorily.
You did. But I mean, I had a follow-up question, but I thought you already answered it. But I'm just going to ask it. Was there any potential or any person, and if there are or was, why didn't you take that leap?
Again, the potentials would have been any of these people that I can think of that come to mind that were friends, or that religion-wise, it wasn't even something to think about, or age, like I said. And then, can I be honest? Lastly, sometimes it was just because they were short.
They were what?
Short. I'm just confessing. I'm just confessing. Like, I promised myself I would not date a short guy, and God is probably just laughing at me like, you're not a serious child.
Wait, before you even go any further, what do you consider short? Like, I'm trying to put a number to it. Height.
So, college and Michigan and Canada, the first three, they were, I want to say, I'm being generous if I say any of them got to 5'8", but let's just say they got to 5'8".
That's the average height.
In my mind, it was showing of short guys. These are your problems. These are the issues, y'all. These are the issues. And so after that, my dear, other than the one guy that I said that I thought that I was like, okay, yeah, my friend, like, should we not? And then he was an unserious fellow. Yeah, no, they've been 6 foot and above.
So
5'11" if I'm
5 below.
5
I mean 6 below.
5'11"
No shit.
5'11" if I'm being. You see, yeah, obviously now everybody's like, yeah, being unrealistic. Yeah, this, yeah, that. See, I will say this. Date what you like, right? Or marry who you like. Marry who you're not going to be frustrated with. At least in my mind, maybe he will not be 5'11" and above. Maybe
6 feet and above.
I said maybe he won't. Like let me as people say, yeah, you have to compromise. You have to this, you have to that. Everybody settles. Okay, all right. He's not 5'11" and above, but he better be cute. I'm just saying, like, let's not just because we want to marry, just marry. I'm gonna be cute. So why can't he be cute? I'm just saying, like, let's do what we gotta do. So I see all of that to just say that I'm not even. I will always prioritize all the most important things, right? Is he kind? Does he love God? And I sometimes always say, is he kind before does he love God? Because I just feel like you can't overemphasize how much kindness matters, but obviously let's be God directed, because some people are kind to the outside, they're not kind to the people at home. That's a very big thing.
Yep.
Does he is respect, and I mean, and not one way respect me just as much as you expect me to respect you, because you know how they always say men like to live on respect. Does he love sports? Because I mean, he doesn't have to be an Arsenal fan, but like, do you like sports? But okay, maybe we can compromise. Just know that the babies are going to be Arsenal fans.
Man City and Man U, it's a no.
Issues. You see what we're talking about. You see my own friends telling me now. You see, this is what we're talking about. But all of that, it's like, is he generous? Does he listen to others, right? Does he have a father figure that he listens to and respects? Like somebody that can call him and be like, what the hell are you doing? Fix up, right? Does he have mentors? Does he have good friends and quality friends, right? It's not a matter of number, but quality. All of these other things, right? There's no way I'm going to see that in a person and be like, oh, okay, he's 5'2". God forbid I'm 5'2". but I do think people often dismiss that when I say it, not understanding that I think it's important to like what you like. And it's so much easier for guys to say that and it not be a problem. I've always told people that, especially the one guy that I dated, apparently he always liked big girls. I think, and I mentioned this before, always liked big girls. And I think I'm big now, but then I was tiny. Like I thought I was probably big then too, but I was actually really tiny. Ends up with a big ass wife, and that's what he likes, right? Like, so oftentimes guys will go for what they like and let them just marry that person because that person is a good girl and all of that crap. But meanwhile, I'm sleeping around with what they actually really want and desire. Like, let's not do that, right? Like, if I'm not your type, I'm not your type. Keep it moving. If you're not my type, you're not my type. Let's keep it moving, right? I think that's important.
So in recap, 6 feet and over. Just throwing it out there.
We said 5'11" now. We're coming down. 5'11".
5'11" and 6 feet is the same thing. But no, I think that's a good point. Like, you like what you like, and we already talked about it. Like, you're not trying to settle. I think it's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes all the questions that I have.
Well, I hope this is revealing. That's the word. Revealing for everybody, and I hope you liked it. I think that we'll probably try and do this again. We have to figure out a way for you to send the questions where I don't see it first. Maybe that would be much more. That's a good point, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, because some of them you might have like pre-planned answers for.
So we'll try and do it again. But thank you so much, Fuad, and thank you for the banter. I loved it.
You're welcome.
And thank you, everybody, that sent a question. I really appreciate it. And the good thing about it is you have to listen to get the answer. So there we go. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining me on today's episode. Just like you would share with friends about a great book you read, don't forget to share this if you enjoyed it. Connect with us on IG and Twitter at TWWPcast and get details on the website at worldwithoutpeople.org. And hey, Remember to make loving others the story of your life. Until next time, this is The World Without People.